Okay, hello everyone. Just a very quick update on the electric outboard project. So when we last saw each other, I'd had some sort of thermal problem and the motor had stopped operating. What I did then was same day actually, took the machine home, stripped it. Could not find anything whatsoever wrong with the electric motor, which was a good thing, I guess. The phase resistances were all equal. In fact, I'll just show you. Basically, it's got three sets of windings on this brushless motor, and it's in a delta configuration, so there's no earth wire, and then that's the haul line there. So I measured the resistance between any two pairs of windings, and it's about 0.5 ohm at rest, which is exactly what it was when I bought it, so that's good. Motor's still free to turn, although I've not got the propeller on it, so I don't quite have enough torque to do that. I wondered if it was the hall cables, so I checked by injecting the 5 volts on the ground into the relevant hall cables here, and then checking with my oscilloscope that I got a response out of the motor when I turned it manually. That all appears to work. What I did notice was that the output from the blue hall sensor was a little bit lower when it was connected to the rest of my control system, and it's no coincidence that that is the sensor I was using to get a speed indication for the controller. So it is possible that sensor was not giving a big enough signal to the motor controller. Possibly. I doubt it though, but it's a possibility. I then stripped the controller apart, and again, it's definitely not working. Absolutely nothing is coming out of these phase lines at all, regardless of how basic the inputs provided. So there's something wrong with this. Checked these FETs here, and it looks like 1 or 2 of them have blown. I also checked the specification for those FETs, and it's actually quite high. However, I then went ahead and bought a new controller, because what I was wondering was the controller that I bought with the motor, which was this one here. It might be a bit too small, and it might be underrated. This may be true, because this is a 1500 watt regulator, and it's quite a bit chunkier than this one. But again, you know, if I took this apart, which I'm not going to at the moment, I will guarantee that the transistors, the field effect transistors, will be about the same size. So pretty convinced that the controller's broken. Now, of course you say, well, you've got a brand new controller in front of you right there, Ollie. Why don't you just plug it in and see if it works? Because this is why, yeah. Because it's an absolute pig. None of this here is the total sum of documentation that came with it. It's listing cables that don't actually exist on the machine here. All the colors are different. I'm not getting 5 volts on it anywhere, which is a typical control circuit voltage. It says here that I need to connect an E-lock cable, but doesn't tell me down here which cable that is. And I'm none the wiser for studying this. I'm pretty pissed off, actually, so I've asked the eBay seller for some information. One of the good things about you know, tinkering with electronics for a number of years, as I have, is that when you do a big sort out of your kit, you find things that you'd forgotten you owned, and I found these little beauties here. So I think I bought these for a solar water heater project some years ago, and they're just little brushless 12 volt fans. What I'm going to do, if I get a controller that works, is obviously attach a couple of small fans onto the controller, thusly, for for information, actually, I did a very, very similar thing on the regulator rectifier of my motorcycle. It's a Honda VFR 800, which are notorious for the reg-rex blowing, which indeed it did. So when I put the replacement rectifier on about 5 years ago, I added 2 of these small fans, and well, it hasn't blown since, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's because of the fans. With the motor, I actually checked the figures again for it, and it actually claims to be only about 85% efficient, not, as I suspected, 95% efficient. That means that there could well be a couple of 100 watts sitting here on this aluminium base plate trying to get away, and that would explain why the motor was pretty hot. Now, there's a number of ways I can rebuild this to make that problem go away, but what I think I'm going to do is actually not clamp the motor directly onto this base plate here. It's quite difficult to do anyway. I don't know if you can see it, but these bolts here, I'd need to maybe tap these holes out or something and move away from bolts here, and then it's all a bit of a faff. What I'm actually going to do is the opposite. I'm actually going to move this plate down. This is just a transition plate that essentially provides a series of drilled holes between the motor's holes and the outboard engine's holes and the motor's holes. I'll move that spacing up, and then I'm going to see if I can get my friend Tony to maybe 3D print a fan that will go directly onto that motor shaft, and that's going to suck air up through the bottom. I had left quite a big hole here, and blow it out along the sides base plate of the motor, and that should hopefully take most of that heat away. In addition, I'll probably use another electric cooling fan somewhere just for when you've been running hard and you've turned the motor off. That's all quite straightforward stuff that I quite enjoy doing, but unfortunately I'm not really in a position to do very much at all until this works or gets sent back and replaced with another one. So yeah, it's been a bit frustrating actually, because there's very little I've been able to do other than hang about waiting for parts to arrive, and these parts are not, you know, not nearby. Much as I expected lots of things to go wrong with this project, I expected them to be things that I'd built and therefore I could fix. I didn't expect it to be a commercially available piece of control electronics, and that's been quite disappointing and also frustrating. So yeah, sorry I can't bring you a more interesting video, but yeah, these things are sent to try us. So as ever, you know, thanks for watching. Any comments in the description, and hopefully I'll get this sorted soon. Thank you then. Bye.